By now, everyone knows that Dollar Shave Club ships amazing razors for a few bucks. Tim's been a member for a while, and he loves the shave, and I love the way he looks. What you might not know is that Dollar Shave Club also has products for pretty much everything else you need in the bathroom. Body wash, hair gel, everything. And just like the razors, everything is super high quality and left Tim looking so good, I violated my marriage vows. If you're like Tim, obsessed with Crash Bandicoot and sick of the nonsense that is the store, now's the time to try out Dollar Shave Club. For a limited time, Dollar Shave Club is basically giving away their starter set to new members. For only $5, you get the executive razor, 3 trial-size versions of their most popular things, some blades, you'll enjoy yourself. In your first box, you'll receive their shave butter, body wash, and 1 wipe Charlie's butt wipes. I am not making this stuff up, along with the razor and that premium weighty handle that somebody likes, the cassette full of cartridges. And after the first box, replacement cartridges are just a few bucks a month. This offer is exclusively available at dollarshaveclub.com/Greggy. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Greggy. What else are you gonna shave with? A shoe? My topic,
give it to me,
comes from patreon.com, just like Matt did. But this time, it was submitted by Nick Frontiero. How do you say that one, Nick?
Frontiero.
Nick Frontiero on Patreon. Nick writes in and says, I thought it would be a neat topic if you talked about movies that were okay at one time, but couldn't be done today. Or just the jokes and stuff. All right, you're not even sure? Frontiero. Or just the jokes and stuff from movies that the PC culture would find offensive now. Also, if you could figure out a way to make one of these films for today's audience, that would be interesting. I wish I could think of an example off the top of my head. The only thing I could come up with right now is Blazing Saddles.
Oh, Blazing Saddles would never fly today. No. Never.
I've only seen Blazing Saddles once. I thought it was funny, but it wasn't the whole point. Is it's a satire against racism?
Yes, but I don't know if movie audiences in this culture are going to be okay with that. Okay. Because every time, I mean, there's the N-word is thrown around like crazy. Right. And I just feel like by the 3rd time, people are like, table gets flipped over. Fuck you guys, you can't say this shit.
Gotcha.
But I mean, Blazing Saddles is a genius film, and don't get me wrong, like it's held in high regard across the board. I don't know that you could be as edgy with that film these days.
Even if the point, even if the one. Go for it. I want to hear what you're going to be honest about. Even if the point, though, was to lambast racism, you don't think you get away with it?
Yes, I don't think so, no.
I don't think the audience would understand that it's satire and that they would still be offended about it.
But I think they would choose to be offended by
it. Yeah, they would still be offended. What I was trying to say. They wouldn't care.
Here comes Kev.
This was a little bit more serious, but Django, like, there was a big movement against, like, oh, they say the N-word way too many times, but
it still happened.
I think at the end, it still happened, and people love that movie.
That's kind of my point. Is honestly, I feel like this topic, there'll be a lot of things that we can bring up. I truly believe any of these movies could happen today. I think,
I don't think they could happen exactly like they happened back then.
I think they could happen exactly like they did. I think that people are going to be outraged about it, and they're going to write their fucking BuzzFeed blogs about it. That doesn't mean that they can't happen.
Well, that's the topic, though. That he's saying, if you were to do these movies, which ones would people like be rightfully outraged over, or like or unrightfully? Like, oh, they're remaking how? Like,
people can be outraged about literally everything. What I'm saying, I think that any of these movies, any movie you guys name, I think could come out today.
My pick is Soul Man from 1986. Wikipedia synopsis is Mark Watson is the pampered son of a rich family who is about to attend Harvard Law School along with his best friend Gordon. Unfortunately, his father's neurotic psychiatrist talks his patient into having more fun for himself instead of spending money on his son. Faced with the horrifying prospect of having to pay for law school by himself, Mark decides to apply for a scholarship, but the only suitable one is for African Americans only. He decides to cheat by using tanning pills in a larger dose than prescribed to appear as an African American. Watson then sets out for Harvard, naively believing that blacks have no problems at all in American society. There's no way somebody would get behind that picture.
That movie could be made if it were reversed. I think if
white chicks.
It's white chicks, basically.
But I think that even nowadays, like you going under this guise, white chicks couldn't be made today. Because I feel like
maybe not.
So I feel like you're taking couldn't be made as I'm saying no studio would back that. That's not a movie that would be made. Clearly, you could go to Patreon, you could fund it yourself, you could do whatever.
But I mean, I'm going farther than that, where I'm just saying that I feel like people wouldn't make it because they're like, oh man, it's going to get too much backlash. It's like, yo, if you're going to push this shit through, You're just not going to stand by that because you don't want to deal with people not liking it. Just there's more people able to be vocal about not liking the things. Sure, and that's on you to stand by if you think that this is funny enough. And then you need to find that audience that's going to think it's funny. Or else you can't back up your own shit and you shouldn't do it.
Sure, I think Greg's point is, so I walk in and I'm like, I love this movie, I love this idea, right? It's gonna be about it's a remake of Soul Man, right? We're gonna take the whitest person you can find, and he's gonna pretend like he's black, and he's gonna almost go as far as to do blackface, and it's gonna be hilarious. No studio exec in this climate would be like, here is $5 for that movie. They're just not gonna back that movie. It's not gonna happen. It's just not happening in this day and age because they know that is going to be so much shit that if people catch wind, take a look at what's happening with the new Slave series on HBO. That shit's getting canceled before it's even fucking coming out.
No, it hasn't been canceled.
It's
getting Confederate.
It's getting real close for them being like, this is not worth the shit
People were
heat we're taking
talking
for
about
this.
it for 2 days. It's not, that doesn't mean it's getting canceled.
Confederate, real quick, sorry, is the one that what if the Confederates won the war, right? Okay. And then is it modern day, similar like High in the Man in the High Castle, or is it?
I think we're supposed to be. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
And we're going to our 3rd Civil War, I think.
Okay. See.
I mean, we'll see. I'm not saying it's getting canceled. I'm saying at some point the HBO execs got in a room and were like, what
and
the
so
fuck
here's where this is all personal values, obviously, and everything else, and that's why this is always so thing. But on the weighted scale, right? What the pitch that I just heard on Confederate, the Confederacy won the Civil War. It's in modern day. We're about to go into our 3rd Civil War. Sounds like a fascinating piece of fiction.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would love to read that or watch that. Exactly. Soul Man. 2017-18 sounds like, why the fuck are you putting anyone in blackface? Like, we know that's bad. We know that offends everybody.
Now again, Tim, I see both sides. I see your point too, right? If it's funny enough and done tastefully enough and well enough and it's satire, it can be done.
No,
it absolutely can be done.
To be clear, the only point that I'm making is the people that outrage culture, when really the problem is the people that get outraged at outrage culture. That is where I'm coming from.
Oh no, yeah, everyone's gonna get outraged by everything. Doesn't matter.
But the real problem, what Kevin's saying is like that was 2 days of people being upset and then it was over with.
But the question,
the show wasn't canceled.
Right. But the question is, every week there was another one this week about whitewashing. Right. We talked about that. Right.
Oh yeah.
That's what we're talking about, and I'm sure we'll go into that. Like one of my examples is you can't have Long Duck Dong anymore. That's not going to be a character. You can't have Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany playing a Japanese upset.
Dude,
at the time
though is, can you not do that? When you look at movies, there's still characters like that where to this day we'll be in the theater. I can't believe they're doing this.
Well, my opinion is no, I don't think you can, because I think as filmmakers, as Hollywood, as a progressive, you have a moral obligation to not paint people in that light.
But so here's the thing.
I think you cannot do that
James Bond
anymore.
is a perfect example where I feel like I would bring up James Bond as an example. You can't do that anymore. But then you watch, what was the last one? Spectre. And they did it. They did it in 2016.
It didn't do well, and a lot of people gave him shit for that, myself included.
Right.
So
but that doesn't matter, though.
And
real quick, as somebody who didn't see Spectre, what, he slaps girls in the butt and he's like, get out of here, as man talk? Or
no,
what?
he just gets really creepy with Monica Bellucci, and then it's a very weird scene where it's kind of rapey. It's a little
like
rapey.
pushes her against the wall and kind of
Yeah,
no, but that was a scene.
You can remove the kind of,
and that's a scene that I would argue if I were a filmmaker, I'd be like, I would fight to not have this scene in here, because in this day and age, and people are smarter, people have progressed beyond this. We don't need, this is not the symbol of masculinity anymore to me, right? This is not the macho hero anymore, a guy that walks into a room and can fuck any woman that he wants right off the bat because he's James Bond. That doesn't fly with me anymore. I think that we've progressed beyond that point.
But it was in a major movie that came out that was funded by a studio and they didn't take it out. Right. That's what I'm saying.
Because it has a lineage. Anything can happen. That's, again, going back to the point is, what would people overreact to, and should we be doing this? Like, should it be remade? What can be remade? Does that make sense? Like, I think Greg's point is kind of where I'm coming from this, of like, if I were a studio executive, would I have greenlit that scene in Spectre? Probably thinking, okay, it's James Bond, but now seeing it, would I do it again in the next one? No. You better goddamn believe they're probably not going to have another scene like that in the next James Bond.
I don't believe it. Why would I believe that? When we see Transformers 2 and it has these racist ass characters.
That's another one of those.
But they went away, didn't they?
Yeah, they went away, but they went away because to sell more toys because they needed other ones. They didn't go away because they were racist.
People were mad. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the worst part about that James Bond thing was that it leading up to the movie, and when she was cast, they're like, oh, she's like the oldest Bond girl, she's so like stunning, and see how like this woman can still, like put her presence in this movie, and act, old can still be sexy, all that kind of stuff, and then in the movie she's practically raped. That's just not a good look. I mean,
it's
I
skeezy.
see, right?
It's skeezy,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And everyone knows it's skeezy, and I think that's the sort of the heart of what we're talking about here. Is like, I just feel like, I mean, again, it's me. Everyone's different, and we have a very big country, very diverse country. There's 318 million Americans here. People are going to have their own opinions of this, right? But to me, as a James Bond fan, I'm like, I expect a little bit more than that. Like, that's not suave. That's not debonair. That's not charming. That is just you taking everyone's expectation of what James Bond's supposed to be and exploiting it for this one scene that BT dubs didn't service the movie
No.
at all. He could have walked in, saved her life, and be like, let's have a conversation. Why did he have to fuck her?
And it could have been consensual.
And it didn't even need to be consensual. It was, I just saved your life. They were going to kill you. I just saved your life. Tell me what's going on with your husband. Cool. Awesome.
Right.
That's all it had to be. But instead, he like pins her up against the wall and he's like, Daniel Craig. And poor Daniel Craig, you can see it. He's like,
Poor Daniel Craig.
I don't even want to be doing this.
Fuck. You can
Right.
see it. Like, oh, fucking do this fucking scene. This is terrible. It's probably another reason why he doesn't want to do the role anymore. I'm putting words in his mouth now. But now
He's going to write it and he's going to be like, no, Nick, you're right.
No, you're right. You're right.
But
He's in the chat
I
right
have
now.
to imagine that that's frustrating for him, like having to play that same fucking role over and over again and not having people go like, hey, man, it ain't 1965 anymore. It is 2017. Maybe this character needs a little bit of an update and to be a little bit more sensitive to what's going on in the world. I got a long list of these, by the way.
Oh no! Well, I mean, like that's the thing,
for it.
and I feel like that's where these scales come in. What we're talking about is, I feel like we've talked about it before on this show, right? Of like, fiction should be able to be created and exist, but then it's you get to make your opinion on it. Like it shouldn't be killed in its cradle necessarily, right? Unless like, well, no, I don't even know. Well, like, we're way in the weeds, right? So Soul Man versus you know anything else you want to do or whatever. But like, I put honorable mentions in because I think Soul Man is the movie I look at where I'm like, that can't exist. I googled around. I saw this Breakfast at Tiffany's. I've never watched Breakfast at Tiffany's, and then it's like, yeah, it's Andy Rooney, right? Mickey Rooney, and he's like playing this Asian guy. You're like, all right, cool. And you watch it, like, holy
Mr.
fucking
Yunioshi is his name. I wrote it down here, and that's one of the biggest like. That is one of the
cinema sins.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Because it didn't service anything. There was no reason other than they were like, Mickey Rooney is a very popular person.
Yeah.
He's going to be playing the Japanese man. Mickey Rooney being super white.
And that being the joke of it. Like that was the point.
The joke was to make fun of Japanese people.
Absolutely.
And it's the same way, like growing up, my dad loved, I assume he still does, I don't know, but he grew up with them too. The Charlie Chan movies. Are you familiar with these detective movies or whatever? And like you're watching, like, is the lead guy? Is Charlie Chan a white guy pretending to be? And my dad's like, yeah. I'm like, that's really weird. They wouldn't make that anymore. But like honorable mentions, things that wouldn't fly. The first thing that came to mind off of that was Short Circuit's non-Indian Indian man. You remember this Fisher Stevens or whatever?
Oh right.
Who's basically. No, he wasn't Indian. And the problem is we were both young and stupid.
Yeah,
I think now we would see right through it if we watched it, but at the time,
was he just a
you
white
don't
dude
fucking
doing
know.
Indian?
Yes,
No,
he's a white man in brown face pretending to be Indian there too.
Yeah, that's not
and
good.
and that brought up recently, I don't know if you've seen this, the problem with Apu, the True TV documentary or whatever. For Apu from The Simpsons. Nobody knows what I'm talking about?
Abu?
No, Apu.
Is that what his name was?
From Simpsons.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
saying it perfect.
Who's the monkey in Aladdin?
Thank you.
Yes, there you
Thank
go.
you. Now who's being racist?
Yeah. This fall, True TV is releasing comedian Hari Khan Dabulu, Simpsons documentary, The Problem with Apu, which will explore the cultural impact of the show's most prominent Indian character. It's the same thing where you don't think about it, or at least I don't think about it, because Simpsons was forever ago, and I don't watch it.
Right.
But I remember watching it and being like, oh, okay, Apu's Indian or whatever. And he's done by Hank Azaria or whatever is his voice or whatever. And it's this thing of, obviously the director of this is Indian. And I watched the trailer for it, and he's talking to all these other Indian actors and how, like, Apu has set them so far back in this. And not maybe just Apu, but he's the shining example of when they go out on a casting call, what they want from, okay, do an accent, do this, you're a taxi driver, this, you know what I mean? Them going through and doing all these different things. And the guy who's making the movie's like, it sucks because I love The Simpsons, but this is like ruining it and nobody sees that there's a problem here.
Hassan Minaj, if I'm not mistaken, has a great, is he the one that tried to be in Deadpool? He was trying to be the taxi driver in Deadpool.
Oh, was he? I don't know the story.
Oh, fuck, I can't remember. It was either Hassan or someone else. Someone else was talking about that, and they were like, how they went in for the audition, and they told him specifically, like, don't do the Indian accent, don't do it. He's like, bro, I can do it, or whatever. And they're like, don't do it. And then he didn't get the role. And then the guy that got the role was like the stereotypical cab driver.
And this is the same. This is a big part of Master of None.
Yeah.
And that, like, season one, when
yeah.
Aziz is still going out on roles, it's the exact same thing where they go to these things. And, what's up, Joey?
Oh, I just started Master of None, so
Oh, okay. Well, that's it. That's all it was. It's just one quick segment.
Yeah, I guess what you're really talking about is like, is it? I guess what we're boiling it down to is like, is it okay to still make fun of cultural stereotypes, right? And this is something that I see in comedy all the time in stand-up, where you'll see people that do that, and you're like, oh, like maybe that's just what I'm bringing to the table, but I cannot stand up on stage in good conscience and be like, I'm going to do a stereotypical Japanese accent right now to make fun of Japanese people. Like, I just don't. That sucks the air out of the room whenever someone tries to do that. Again, I'm doing comedy in the most liberal place on the fucking planet right now, which is San Francisco. So every single person in there, in the back of their mind's like, oh, when's this motherfucker going to trip up so I can be like judgy, right? I understand that. I get it. Again, having said that, to your point, if someone does it and they fucking nail it and everyone in the audience is on board with it, then it suddenly becomes okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's on the person that's doing the art to like own it and to believe in it. And if people don't laugh, then they don't laugh. And it's like, all right, well, fuck you guys then.
Right.
I'm going to take this somewhere else and find that audience of people that do like it.
And that's the thing. Some of the movies that did this were actually doing that, right? Some of the movies back in the day that were doing this were subtle, veiled commentaries on a lot of things. Like one of the ones I had on my list was The Toy, right? Which is a movie, I don't know if you remember this or not. It's Richard Pryor and a rich white kid.
No, rich white guy. Isn't it Jackie Gleason?
Jackie Gleason, but he buys Richard Pryor for his kid.
Gotcha.
As a toy. And obviously the entire thing is basically a social commentary on slavery and on you know what it's like to be black in America in the 80s. And Richard Pryor, I don't think would have done that movie otherwise. You know, but a lot of people look back on that now and go, that can't get done. There's no way that could be done.
Yeah, because then there's other things that are just straight up just racist, like Dumbo. You know, when
the crows.
Yeah, the crows.
Where their leader's literally named Jim Crow. And it's like what? But it was a different time then. And because people were openly racist then in a way that open racists are not, you know, given a high five these days. Right. You know, it's not that it doesn't happen still, but it's not as openly accepted, which is the whole point of this thing. Right. Yeah. And like looking at, I think even as close to now as the 90s, when any Adam Sandler movie, any Rob Schneider movie, so many of the jokes in that are just making fun of minority groups. Oh, all the whatever 90s they are, whether it's race or level of handicap or whatever it is. It's just ridiculous that like they make these jokes, but they were funny, and that was the climate then. And it's like it's not that they couldn't happen now. It's just that there's not an audience to support that shit because people don't think that's funny. Yeah. Right.
Well, and you'd like to think we've matured, right? I think that's a part of it. You know what I mean? I think it's not funny because you start to think of other people's emotions and the humanity of your fellow person, right? And that's the thing where I think for from the document or for the trailer for The Problem with the Pooh, that's what it really stands out to me as, right? For me growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, you know, with my parents and other white people around me, like I don't know any Indian people. So to see a Pooh on TV while he's not really Indian, but also portraying like, here's what Hinduism is, right? And here's how this works, and here's who I am, and I have a family, and I'm trying to get me. And like, it was a thing of like, oh, that is positive, but negative in the same sense, which is weird.
Although, which is the weirdest thing though is like when I think of a Pooh from the Simpsons, I think of he's like the one character that does have his shit together.
Yeah, like, he runs a business and he's great. Yeah, right. Yeah,
he's horrible human beings.
Yeah, exactly. No,
but I'm right there with you, right? And I think that's why when people start going like, oh, I don't understand what all this whitewashing stuff is. Like, I understand that art is art, and the person who's making the art has the like he or she gets to dictate what is in that. But there is also something to be said of saying like, look, you have the opportunity to make something without taking something away from someone, right? You have the, I'm glad you beat me, which is hilarious because I was going to pee after this. You have the opportunity to go like, hey, do we need to make this joke? Does this joke not like need to be a like poking fun at the Indian stereotype, or can we actually cast an Indian person in this, and is that going to deter from what we're trying to make? You know?
Hey, real quick,
and that's what you have to ask yourself.
Real quick, I like him. He's good.
Yeah,
he's doing a really good job on the show.
Should we kill him when he comes back?
No, why?
Okay. I thought that's where your brain's.
No, I just want to say I really like him. I'll never tell him to his face. I just want to
these type of like the jokes or the movies or whatever it is you want to call it. I think what it really comes down to is what you were saying about the Richard Pryor movie, where it's like there was a parody there and there's some level of social commentary, and people can say there's social commentary in literally anything. Sure. So it's not like that makes it okay. But for me, growing up in San Francisco, growing up in a dominantly Chinese environment, it was always if someone made a Chinese joke, being around my Chinese friends, when I would laugh and they would laugh is when there was a layer to it, when it was like making a joke that was understanding of the culture. But when someone's punchline was ching chong, then you're just making fun of. Like,
Well,
the joke is the people then.
Yeah, and that's a question I always I ask myself a lot, where I'm like, where is the end of that, right? Because at a certain point, they're like, as a person who is doing stand-up comedy, as a person who's making jokes, like, you could pick apart any single one of my jokes that I make and have a problem with it, right? Be like, that I'm going to get offended at this because of that. And so that's something I think about a lot. I don't have an answer for it, which is like, obviously you go back and watch like any Eddie Murphy stand-up special from the 80s, and 90% of that shit, people would just be like, no, dude, you cannot fucking talk about gay people like that. You can't talk about like mentally handicapped people like that. It's just not going to fly, right? So at a certain point, like I do wonder, I'm like, as a person getting into comedy 10 years from now, what is going to be, or like, what are we as comedians able to talk about and make fun of?
My thing is, I think you're able to talk, and this goes back to my argument, is you're able to talk about anything as long as you stand by it and that you really do think it's funny and you're not just getting mad because they're mad at you, right? You just said it so well yourself that you think about everything you say. Good, right?
Right, but
you should take every single joke that you have and think about it from every perspective that you possibly can to maximize how can I make the most people think that this joke is funny?
Sure.
Little tweaks can go so far.
Sure.
To then, in 10 years, when people look back at what you're doing, you're going to have a massive audience of people that think you're funny.
But at the same time, it's hard not to feel like the subject matter and the field of play is narrowing, right?
But it's not if you just own it. Because I feel like Eddie Murphy, I mean, he's turned into something different in the last couple of decades. But if he were to come up and still do the same jokes and still do them the way he did, if he owned that, it's funny that he's saying those things that are inappropriate.
Chappelle just did two Netflix specials, one that had jokes that he's been doing for a long time.
And it felt inappropriate, but it was funny because it was Chappelle doing it. It didn't feel like, ooh, you shouldn't be saying it these days. It felt like you're funny and you're owning this, and it's funny because you're
Yes, but I watched the Chappelle specials, the two that came out, and there was some stuff in there that I was like, okay, you're a little out of touch. Like, we've moved beyond this. As me personally, I don't think that's funny anymore because I've moved beyond that. Maybe it's because when I watched Killing Him Softly, it was back in like 2002 when I was 22. Actually, I take that back. I went back and watched Killing Him Softly recently. It's a fucking brilliant special. That I think was just a much better written special, and I think Chappelle was on point in that. I think now he's fallen off a little bit as far as like, I just don't think I think he took that break and he needs to build steam coming back. So I'm interested to see what the third part of that special is going to be.
Is there a third part?
Yeah, I think he's doing 3.
Because the two of them, one of them I thought was really good and one of them was really bad.
I think, I could be completely wrong. I may have just made that up, but I think he's doing a third one in that series.
I haven't heard that at all.
Well, then maybe I'm wrong. But I look at those and I'm like, I feel like he's someone who got big, got rich, burned out, walked away from it, came back to it expecting the game to be the same, and the game changed. And there's some stuff that he says in that I'm like, it's not that it wasn't funny. I'm just disappointed because I go back and watch Killing Him Softly. I'm like, fuck, that was so, for the time, so funny and so coming at that part of the world from a different perspective, like your life from a different perspective, and really turning that all on its head. Just really smart comedy. And then you watch the newer ones and you're like, oh man, he's just calling people trannies. Like, I don't really fucking need that, man. Like, that's not smart. That's not clever. That's not a commentary. And what you're talking about is adding depth to your comedy and having layers of people going like, wow, I just laughed at that. And asking themselves, why did I just laugh at that? Or what's so important about me laughing at that? What does that say about me? What does it say about you? What does that say about the world? These observational things that this comedian is trying to make.
What's that, or it's shock value? Like, I feel like hearing Chappelle say the things, it's like, oh shit. And I feel like South Park is the master of that, of the shock and awe of we're seeing something so fucked up, but then there is always the deeper message.
Yeah, but that's the thing about South Park that's brilliant, is because South Park is actually on a surface level the stupidest fucking thing you're ever gonna go. It is shock and awe value, right? But it is one of the deepest fucking shows ever made.
Utterly brilliant.
And it's genius, and it can be genius because it's very topical. I don't know. I've got a long list, but I feel like we're going.
I mean, what are your other highlights?
Another thing for me that I just want to say is that what we're talking about reminds me of Eminem. Like, one of my favorite rappers of all time. No matter what trash he ends up putting out, no matter how bad it ends up getting, he will still be one of the best to ever do it. But then I look back and I listen to his first 4 albums even, and I'm like horrified at
oh yeah, sure.
And it's like they're still technically amazing. His rhyme schemes are still on point. Like, the way he would put things together was just it's unmatched. However, it's like, whoa, you couldn't say this shit now. But it's like, but you could. People still do. People always do. There's just not an audience for it. People wouldn't buy Eminem albums if he was, dropping slurs left and right.
Sure.
But he still kind of does, and people still do kind of buy it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people there's a lot of people that probably would be in touch with some of those messages too, unfortunately. Couple movies that, because I actually looked through this and there's a bunch of lists online, so I'm not going to say that I came up with a lot of these off the top of my head because I didn't come up with any of them. None of them. I mean, some of these movies like Overboard, I knew. Obviously,
Overboard, an old one. Goldie Hawn, Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell basically kidnaps her.
She's a rich woman, right, on a yacht. He's working on it.
Right.
She falls overboard and loses her memory, and he's like, "We were married."
Right.
You know,
He basically kidnaps her for a good 4 weeks before they find her.
But then she falls in love with him.
She falls
Great
in love with
movie.
him.
Great
Although
movie.
I don't know.
story.
See, that's one of those that I think of like that's super creepy, but I think that could be made funny today.
Aren't they remaking it? Isn't that the thing?
I think they were making
you
it.
were talking about that.
They're remaking Splash.
My apologies. All right. Okay.
Another one that popped out to me was, and this was on a list, and I didn't think about this. Like I saw it on a list, and I was like, no way. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, interesting. True Lies, because the way it paints Muslims is like so unbelievably stereotypical. Like
No way. They make
the terrorist.
they still are. I mean, in
first
movies,
one.
they still are always the terrorists.
Okay.
Like that's now when you have a Muslim comedian, or again, I think it might even be in Master of None. They're like, we're just gonna be the terrorists. Why do we have to do this?
Right.
You talk to like Maz Jobrani, I think, has a bit about it in his stand-up special too. The same
that one
way.
good?
Oh, it's great. Yeah,
Okay,
he's hilarious, dude. Yeah. But that is the sad. It's still the sad thing, right? Of like in the same way, like in the '80s, the Russians were always the villain. Now it's that. Muslim, Middle Eastern, you're the terrorist,
Radical
you're here to take
Islam.
them. Yeah. And I feel we've gotten a little bit better at it, but I'm also a 34-year-old white guy who plays a golf game at night, so who the hell knows what's happening out
play
there
a
for other
great
people.
golf game.
I do.
And you're good at it.
Thank you.
Couple notable other ones that I wanted to just bring up and actually ask, because I don't know. These are ones that I'm like, I think they could be remade, but it's interesting. The subject matter is interesting.
Certain things have to change.
Weird Science. Two dudes get together to make their perfect girl, and she's just smoking hot.
You could do that again.
I think you could too. Because some of these are like the reason I brought up that I found some of these on the list because I just fundamentally disagree. I think the Kelly LeBrock character in that is the strongest character in the entire thing. They make this dream character of a girl who's supposed to be like just for her looks, and she ends up being a fucking super genius that like helps these dipshit fucking nerds.
I mean, the thing you're leaving out in case somebody doesn't know Weird Science is that they're losers in whatever sophomore, junior year of high school. They're high school kids, and so they whip up this supermodel or whatever who can grant wishes and is awesome and like is in control of all the situations. I think you get away with that.
I mean, I think this goes back to the fact that when it comes to all of the why can or can't you do these things? Like there's certain things on the list that we think about, and I think that there's just certain things that are more taboo than others.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, it's like one thing will be like, well, this is worse than that, so we can't do that. So as you look at it now, I think that sexism is still not that bad.
Still okay.
Yeah, you know,
In terms of general public scale, popular opinion,
sexism still hasn't hit that point where it's like, oh, you can't say gay, right? Like if you say gay now, that's like you're bad.
You're still allowed to fight somebody if they say they're feminist. Basically, right now.
Well,
I'm not a feminist.
Feminist into it is that's a layer that like complicates things. But just the sexism of it, of building your perfect woman, like that. Not everyone agrees that is bad.
Well, I think that could be done and done in such a way that's brought up to modern times, and it would be joking about that, right? And I think they get a little bit of a pass because they were sophomores in high school and they're boys.
Well, that's the thing. They're sexually charged. And that was the thing too.
Is
they
the
always
point of it, right?
Didn't they want to fuck Lisa, but they couldn't?
Yeah, they couldn't.
There's some rule.
They were too. No, they were. Just
oh no, she brought him in. She brought him in the shower. That's right. And they were like,
and that was the commentary. There was like these guys they
get what they want.
They have their prepubescent like dream girl there, and it's so intimidating to them.
Showering's fun, she says. Right?
Yeah,
like,
they end up actually going for just the girls that are nice girls.
Exactly.
I think that could totally be made. Greg, one that you mentioned was Revenge of the Nerds.
Fuck yeah. Revenge of the Nerds on the surface and probably will be remade in our lifetime. I feel like they won't have Lewis totally pretend to be a girl's boyfriend and rape her not like rape like she's fighting back. She thinks she's having sex with her.
Rape is rape.
I know, but I mean, again, what's so hard about these films is like Revenge of the Nerds, everyone knows what I'm talking about. No, they don't, right? Of like, he steals the outfit that matches her boyfriend's outfit and goes into the bounce house, on the moon. House, They have sex, and at the end, he comes up and takes off the mask, and she's like, oh, it was you. Are all nerds this good at sex? Like, that's not the reaction you have when you've been violated by a stranger.
When I was a kid,
watching
Revenge of the Nerds,
apparently,
I remember seeing the whole movie and being like, this is awesome. And I distinctly remember seeing that scene, not being able to vocalize it, being like, I'm pretty sure this is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you're supposed to do this.
Well, I mean,
and then he gets away with it, and I was like,
I still think
that's bad.
That's the thing about what's so weird about and from my own perspective of the 80s and coming of age there or whatever, is the way sexuality is handled.
Yeah.
When you actually get old enough and have sex and have a partner and have all these things, like, it's such a vulnerable, intimate thing. But the way movies handle it, where it's like, if I just had sex with some random person who came up and was like, it was me all along. Like they would fucking, yeah, exactly. Whatever you want. And it's the same one. I have Revenge of the Nerds here. It's the same way that like the nerds break in for a panty raid at the sorority house.
I'm like, as I was watching it as a kid, nothing else registered except for that last part.
They break in to do a panty raid at the house, the sorority house, which is weird enough, but I guess did happen at least once, because that's like the whole like
panty raid, sure.
Yeah, frat
at least once.
Well, you know, it feels like an urban legend thing that's something people talked about.
Be based on some
Who the fuck ever did that? And everybody was like, that's just boys being boys.
Can you imagine if some dipshit frat house was like, we're gonna bring back the panty? They would get fucking.
Now again, if you are listening to or watching this show not having watched Revenge of the Nerds, the panty raid, not even the most offensive thing.
No.
The panty raid was a smokescreen
It's a red herring.
for the other nerds to break into the attic, saw holes in the roof, and put cameras in their bedrooms and bathrooms.
Oh my god.
Then they go back to their nerd fraternity house and watch on closed circuit TV these women naked in the shower with each other comparing. It's like,
kids are smart.
they were something, all right. They would all be fucking thrown away right now. Thrown in jail. Thrown in jail.
When I was a kid, the reason why that maybe didn't register was because it was like overload. Because the whole point of it was like leading up to the joke about Bush. We've got Bush. Remember that? And that was the first time I think as a child I'd ever seen a naked woman. Like, I'd ever seen pubic hair. And I remember just not. I don't even think my brain. It just went boo. You know what I mean? Like it was so much stimuli that it just fucking.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is, it was an '80s movie aimed at kids who just wanted to see tits. And on top of it, it was the fact that the nerds were the downtrodden. Right. We were rooting for them to get past the alpha betas who were assholes. And these, of course, were the alpha betas, like girls or whatever. But the pies. But now, to add even more into this of how fucked up this was. During the panty raid, they break in, they put cameras in. Lewis takes a photo of Betty, who is naked. This is the same woman he will eventually rape in the Moon House. Right. Takes a photo of Betty that's naked. Then, at the carnival, whatever, to raise money, to do whatever, they sell pies. And they have a line around the block. And the alphabet is like, why are these people? They go over, they steal a pie. Ogre eats it. It's just whipped cream sprayed into a pie tin. It's good. And at the bottom of the pie tin is the naked photo of Betty or whatever. I think her name's Betty. Yeah, that Lewis took, who will then go on. I think rapes her at that same carnival.
Yeah, I think that was moments before.
And it's like none of that. That whole plot line would have to be ripped away and thrown away. And never is like, all right, we got to draw some things.
See, I think the only way that movie gets remade,
and we talked about this in the airport, right?
Is if you flip those.
What if it was the nerds were the girls sorority, and they went into and they did the frat.
They take some pictures of dicks, because I feel like right now, and this is going back to what you're saying, right? You do that, it's funny enough for people that it doesn't register that's the same shit that they did before, but you're like, oh, it's girls taking pictures of dicks. That's funny, right? That's funny. We can get away with that. And then 10 years from now, we're like, dude, that fucking remake of Revenge of the Nerds, totally inappropriate.
And that's the thing, is that's what would happen. And like, but I don't even know if you would, right? Now, granted, this is held to a higher standard, but that Batman Harley Quinn movie's out, right? And it's just getting ripped apart everywhere. And one of the pieces I read ripping it apart was the fact that, and I haven't seen it, so I really don't have judgment, but based on the description, at one point, like, the thrust is that Batman and Nightwing have to work with Harley or whatever, right? And they're running around doing stuff. At one point, Nightwing wakes up and he's like tied to the bed and Harley's on him naked. And she's like, we should have sex. And at first he's like, no. But then he's like, all right, fine. And they fuck. But it's like, reverse those roles of like the woman wakes up tied to the bed and there's a naked
DC animated movies, like Killing Joke.
Great point. That's a great point. And that's the thing is we get on them about it. Like, I don't even know. I think if we remade Revenge of the Nerds and some girl's eating the pie and it's Zac Efron's cock and balls, I think someone would be like, I don't know, that's what's gonna fly.
I think judging based on our reaction to it, they got a good 3 years they can get away with that joke. 3 years until they can get Zac Efron's dick is not funny anymore.
Close up of Zac Efron's cock and balls.
Yeah, I feel like we'd be okay with that, because I feel like at least for just the 80s in general, guys have it coming. We got payback coming as far as like being objectified by women. And I think, first off, dicks are funny. We can all agree with that. Second off, imagine just a girl eating a bunch of whipped cream and she just sees that sweet, nasty Zac Efron dick.
That's like one of those things. If we have a lot.
Tim's laughing. You can't see it.
We have the cameras. We have the cameras. I talk all the time about wanting to do my Kingdom Come trailer. Yeah. What another thing I would love to do is just let's recreate that scene. Oh, fuck. Where the girl who's ogre walks back and she's eating the pie, like, how is it? It's good. Well, is it good or is it great? It's good. Oh, Oh my goodness! That's just a close up of Zac Efron's cock. Zac Efron, we need to get you on the hook for your cock and balls here.
Zac Efron?
Don't do that, please. Do not do that, please.
I'll tell you a movie that I think needs to be remade because I think it was a little before its time. Is PCU. Do you guys remember this movie?
Yeah, of course I do. Jeremy Piven.
It's a movie about
David Spade.
I think it was like Pacific Central University or whatever.
But it's meant to be politically
correct university. And it was a movie about an intern, or sorry, excuse me,
Pre-frosh,
who was going in to look at this school to see if he wanted to go there or not. And every group on the school was a radical. I mean, it's a precursor to social justice warrior, but that's what they were. So it was like the radical feminists, like that type of
radical
group.
preppies.
The radical
like
preppies.
It was the extreme of every clique.
Of every single clique, right?
Yeah.
And it was basically like everything got protested. Everything that happened got protested. There were protests to protest, right? At one point, the fresh, of course, falls in pre-fresh falls in with the group of the one party house that's still left that are still trying to hold it down and be like, dude, we just want to be normal college students.
Oh my god! And I forgot.
And then like all the protesting groups show up to the party.
John Favreau, right?
Yeah, plays Gutter.
Yeah,
Gutter. Yeah, that was Fat John Favreau.
Oh yeah,
remember that was skinny and then went back.
That
to
was
Fat John
big
Favreau.
old Fat John Favreau.
So I feel like that's a movie that's right for a remake because it's so. I think it's more relevant now than it ever was.
Totally.
Yeah. Star Wars Episode 1. It was like the gun rays, new gun ray.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
But at the time we were like, yo.
Oh,
this is super racist.
That lasted till episode 3.
Yeah.
Right.
The trade. Okay, yeah. The guys doing a real stereotypical
or whatever the
Jar
fuck they were
Binks.
supposed to be.
Jar Jar Binks too.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Whatever. Just but this shit still happens.
At the time, everyone was like, yo. Like I remember watching that
But
going.
it didn't matter. It kept happening.
It did keep happening. It's just
kept
bad. But I guess it's just the
happening.
difference between like, hey, is that a good or a bad look? And for Lucas, that was just a bad look. Especially going out on those 3 movies. You're like, Lucas, no.
If you didn't know, this has been the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather around this table. Each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can get each and every episode early. We post them live when you're watching them and recording them. Then we put them up on Fridays. Then they go up for free, of course, on youtube.com/kindafunny, Monday through Friday, topic by topic, day by day, until it's one big video. And MP3 the following Friday. You could come be on the show, just like Matt did. Matt, I thought you were excellent. I want you to know that.
Excellent.
I was a big fan.
Thank you.
I was a big fan.
Thank you.
You did good. We're going to go to dinner now. Are you excited to eat food?
Yeah, I'm really hungry.
Okay, good. All right. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen. Oh wait, do you want to pimp anything? Do you? I mean, your Twitter's probably been up if you have a Twitter.
It better be.
You got a Twitter. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Well, you paid good money, sir.
Twitter. It's gonna be Meg Turney's Twitter.
We got to make up for Meg. So yeah, there's a gremlin in Kevin's machine that makes everyone Anthony and Gruber. So that's something that happens. What was that?
It's Greg Gettys. Well,
Greg Gettys' machine has a gremlin.
Don't fucking
throw him in
on
the
this.
bus.
Now that's fucked up. That's fucked up.
It's probably exported more than 4,000
Technically,
videos.
it's Kevin's machine.
Yeah, it is technically my machine.
So Kevin just
Gremlins look soft,
You're
but they
right.
hard.
Forgot about that.
Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.
Now, Greg, this is what the Care Bear is gonna look like.
With the acid
A
stomach?
normal Care Bear, but it's
Oh.
got the teardrop at the eye.
Okay, that
That's what
looks
I'm gonna have.
nothing like a Care Bear.
That's what I'm gonna tattoo on
Does
your
that
face.
look like a Care Bear to you?
Oh no! I look like a
no.
weird
Kevin,
gorilla.
can you
Looks
give
like a
Sky Cam
gorilla.
before we sign? That doesn't look like a Care Bear.
I see it, Nick. I
Thank
see
you,
it.
Kevin. Thank you. You know, these guys don't understand art.
It's a gorilla with a tummy.
True story. I never get nervous when doing the intro or outro, except when there's a guest, because
Really?
I don't want to throw off the cadence of. Hold on, this is still fun content. Except for because I don't want to throw off this table for them.
Yeah.
You know what
I'm
I
not
mean?
gonna lie. I've been practicing for like
Good.
weeks.
Nice.
Because so many
Nailed
people
it.
don't, and they miss it.
Well, it's just
know.
because we bring on guests who act like they watch the show.
Kev, can you
No,
bring
no,
Troy
up
Baker's
some
always
of the
like
comments?
scarf over his shoulder. He's like, I love this show, man. I've been on it 12
recording.
times. And they do this. Is like, what the fuck was that? What is going on? Are you angry?
Are you angry?
Thank you for watching.
All right, bye guys.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Click here to subscribe. Click here to see a playlist of other videos. Click here to go to our Patreon page. And click here to go to the Vortex of Darkness. I don't know what it is.